At 3:12 a.m., the radar display is crowded with red signals as air raid sirens echo along the coast of the Gulf of Oman. Iran has launched a major operation against the UAE's new energy lifeline, aiming to weaken the alternative route created to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. However, the response awaiting them is far more advanced than a conventional defense system. Quietly positioned across the region is the United States military's cutting-edge operational network, prepared for a confrontation unfolding across the sea, air, land, and digital domain. This scenario reveals what could happen if that highly classified network were activated to neutralize Tehran's most powerful strategic advantage in the Gulf. The crisis began after an Israeli precision air operation disabled the Natanz nuclear facility. Tehran responded by transforming the Strait of Hormuz into one of the most hazardous passages in global trade. Dense minefields formed a barrier across key shipping routes, while IRGC fast boats moved constantly through the narrow waters, surrounding commercial tankers and leaving them with almost no reliable path forward. Oil prices rapidly climbed, and the possibility of a much wider regional conflict began to cast a shadow over the entire Gulf. Iran's objective was not simply to restrict movement through the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran intended to use the passage as leverage over the world's energy supply. High above the water, Mohajer 6 reconnaissance drones patrolled in near silence, acting as unblinking eyes in the sky. They continuously transmitted live images of opposing forces, allowing the IRGC to study movements, identify vulnerabilities, and prepare its next operation. Abu Dhabi, however, had already prepared an alternative. Hidden beneath the desert, the ADCOP pipeline carried millions of barrels of oil every day toward the port of Fujairah. Like a vast underground river of steel, it allowed UAE oil to reach the Gulf of Oman without passing through the narrow bottleneck of the Strait of Hormuz. Washington understood that this route would become one of Iran's highest priority targets. As soon as ADNOC reached full operating capacity, a United States aircraft carrier strike group moved into the eastern Gulf of Oman. At the center of the formation was a Ford-class aircraft carrier, functioning as a mobile airbase at sea. Around it, Arleigh Burke-class destroyers created a layered defensive shield designed to detect and intercept threats approaching from multiple directions. The defensive network was already in position. All that remained was for Iran to make the opening move. As the ADNOC pipeline continued pumping beneath the UAE desert like a steady heartbeat, Tehran decided that the flow had to be interrupted. Rather than beginning with one overwhelming operation, the IRGC selected a campaign of gradual pressure, using repeated smaller actions to weaken the system over time. Above the pumping stations, the Iranian-built Mohajer 6 operated as a silent digital observer. Circling at altitude, it transmitted real-time information about possible gaps in the UAE's defenses back to its command network. Abu Dhabi responded by deploying a combined umbrella of sensors and defensive systems. On the ground, the Russian-made Pantsir S-1 guarded the lower airspace alongside the American-Norwegian NASAMS platform. Together, they formed a layered interception network designed to respond to unmanned aircraft, helicopters, cruise missiles, and combat jets approaching the protected energy infrastructure. Off the coast of Fujairah, French-designed Gowine-class escort ships established a secure maritime perimeter, while American MQ-9 Reaper drones followed the pipeline from above like tireless sentinels. Then, the silence was broken by a steady mechanical hum. A large formation of Iranian one-way drones was approaching. Iran launched waves of Shahed-136 unmanned aircraft from mobile platforms disguised as ordinary civilian trucks. These machines were not built around highly advanced technology. Their real advantage came from their low cost, simple construction, and ability to be deployed in large numbers. Flying just above the desert terrain, the drones attempted to remain below the UAE's main radar coverage. Their objective was not the pipeline itself, but the complex network of control valves and pumping stations that kept the entire system operating. At the same moment, Iranian coastal units launched numerous decoy projectiles, creating a chaotic display across radar screens. The purpose was clear: overwhelm the processing capacity of the UAE's defensive network and force it to respond to too many signals at once. This became a contest of endurance, with costly interceptor systems facing waves of inexpensive unmanned aircraft. The desert sky filled with flashes and fragments as the Panzer batteries came to life, sending thousands of rounds into the air every minute. Their mission was to stop the approaching formation before it could disrupt the UAE's vital energy infrastructure. When the pumping stations remained operational, Iran shifted to a more powerful option. From fortified positions along Iran's rugged coastline, long-range Pave cruise missiles activated their engines and began moving toward Fujairah. Flying close to the surface, they were difficult to detect and designed to approach without drawing attention. Their destination was Fujairah port, the last major route through which oil could continue leaving the region. Without the port, the ADCOP pipeline would become little more than a 370-kilometer storage system with nowhere to deliver its cargo. This was the moment when the United States' hidden operational network moved into action. High above the Gulf of Oman, a United States Navy E-2D Advanced Hawkeye detected the heat signatures of the Pave missiles almost immediately after launch. The aircraft, recognizable by the enormous radar dome mounted above its fuselage, served as a command center in the sky. The United States had not launched a single weapon. Instead, it relied on something that could shape the entire operation more effectively: information. Through a secure data network, the Hawkeye transmitted the exact routes of the incoming missiles directly to the cockpits of the UAE's Mirage 2009 fighter aircraft. From the perspective of Iranian sensors, the French-designed jets were extremely difficult to track. Their onboard radars remained switched off, preventing them from revealing their positions. The pilots were effectively flying without using their own radar systems, yet the Hawkeye's wide-area surveillance picture guided them toward their targets with remarkable precision. Moving silently through the night, the Mirage formation accelerated toward the Iranian coastline. The aircraft released Storm Shadow cruise missiles from a safe distance. Remaining outside the main detection zone, the UAE pilots watched their displays as the weapons reached the Pave launch positions and disabled them. The immediate threat to Fujairah had been contained before the cruise missiles could reach the port. However, planners in Tehran had already prepared another challenge for the returning aircraft. Just as the Mirage pilots began to believe the operation was complete, the ground-based defensive network below them suddenly came online. Iran had already prepared for the possibility of a counter-operation. Concealed beneath advanced infrared camouflage designed to absorb and disperse heat, the IRGC's Khordad-15 air defense systems remained completely silent. These domestically produced systems emitted no detectable electronic signals. Their crews waited patiently for the exact moment when the Mirage 2009 aircraft completed their mission and turned back toward the Gulf of Oman. Then, without warning, the Khordad-15 radar activated. Its signal swept across the night sky like a sudden beam of light cutting through darkness. Within seconds, warning alarms echoed through the cockpits of the Mirage formation, alerting every pilot that their aircraft had been detected and tracked. Iranian operators responded by launching several Sayed-3 missiles, long-range interceptors designed to engage aircraft operating at high altitude. One Mirage attempted to evade the approaching threat by releasing thermal countermeasures. However, a Sayed-3 detonated close to its engine, sending fragments across the aircraft. Smoke began trailing from the damaged wing as the previously organized UAE formation was thrown into confusion. With their direct route back toward the Gulf of Oman restricted by the newly activated defensive barrier, the UAE pilots faced an increasingly dangerous situation. Iranian coastal systems were attempting to guide the formation into a narrow engagement zone where each aircraft could be targeted separately. At the most critical moment, additional aircraft appeared from an area poorly covered by Iran's sensor network. While the Khordad-15 crews concentrated their attention on the retreating Mirage Squadron, a formation of F-35C, Lightning II aircraft approached from another direction, leaving the Iranian operators with almost no time to respond. The instant the Khordad-15 activated its radar was also the moment its location became visible to the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye. Within seconds, the system's coordinates were transmitted directly to the F-35C pilots. Remaining difficult to detect, the aircraft launched AGM-88 GAARGM missiles, advanced weapons specifically designed to track active radar emissions. The missiles followed the electromagnetic signals produced by the Khordad-15 radar. Every attempt by the Iranian crews to maintain a tracking lock made their position easier to identify. Before the operators could fully assess the approaching threat, a series of precise impacts disabled the Khordad-15 positions and interrupted the local air defense network. The coalition's objective, however, extended beyond protecting the Mirage formation. From the decks of Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, Tomahawk cruise missiles began launching in carefully timed intervals. Moving along the Iranian coastline at low altitude, they were directed toward key IRGC command, communications, and coordination facilities. The strikes disrupted several fixed command centers and reduced Iran's ability to manage its regional forces through a centralized network. Confronted with the coalition's technological advantage, Iranian units began leaving permanent positions and adopting more mobile air defense tactics. Instead of relying on large, easily identified installations, they shifted towards smaller teams capable of relocating quickly and operating with limited electronic activity. To preserve their remaining forces, Iranian units moved their mobile launchers away from exposed coastal positions and deeper into the country's rugged interior. Constant relocation offered them a better chance of avoiding further precision operations. Yet Iran had lost far more than several air defense platforms. It had also surrendered the initiative across the wider operational area. As the final echoes of the Tomahawk impacts faded, one major question remained. What had actually allowed the coalition to regain control of the situation? The answer was not simply the F-35C or the Mirage 2009. The key advantage came from the United States Navy's E-2D Advanced Hawkeye. Measuring approximately 17.6 meters in length, with a wingspan of around 24.6 meters and a radar dome more than 7 meters across, the E-2D was never designed as a traditional combat aircraft. Its purpose was to observe, connect, and coordinate the entire operational environment from high above. Two Rolls-Royce T-56, a 427, a turboprop engines, each generating more than 5,000 horsepower, allow the aircraft to remain airborne for extended periods. From hundreds of kilometers away, it can continuously provide the fleet with a detailed picture of activity across the air and sea. At the center of the E-2D's capabilities is the AN/APY-9 radar. Operating in the UHF frequency band, it can monitor thousands of airborne and maritime contacts at the same time, with detection distances exceeding 500 kilometers under suitable operational conditions and depending on the target. Compared with many conventional fire control radars, the longer wavelengths used by UHF systems can provide stronger detection performance in environments filled with electronic interference or when opposing forces attempt to reduce radar effectiveness. In this scenario, the moment the Khordad-15 system activated its radar to track the returning Mirage aircraft, the E-2D detected the source of the transmission. Its location and activity were immediately added to the coalition's shared operational network. What truly distinguishes the Hawkeye is its cooperative engagement capability. Instead of keeping its radar picture isolated aboard the aircraft, the E-2D can distribute targeting and tracking information in near real time to F-35C fighters, Mirage 2009 aircraft, Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, and other connected platforms. This allows the Mirage pilots to approach an operational area without activating their own radars and revealing their positions. At the same time, the F-35C formation can receive the Khordad-15's coordinates almost instantly and deploy AGM-88 GAARGM missiles without spending valuable time searching independently for the signal source. This ability to combine multiple sensors, aircraft, ships, and defensive systems into one coordinated network is what makes the E-2D so important. It does not simply observe the battlefield. It connects every available source of information and transforms separate platforms into a single, unified system. That is why the Advanced Hawkeye became the command center of the entire operation. From a strategic standpoint, this scenario shows why the ADCOP pipeline is viewed as the UAE's most important backup route if passage through the Strait of Hormuz becomes restricted. By carrying crude oil directly from Abu Dhabi to the port of Fujairah on the Gulf of Oman, ADCOP allows the UAE to reduce its reliance on shipping through one of the world's most sensitive maritime corridors. However, a fixed pipeline extending across hundreds of kilometers also creates a major security challenge. Along its route are pumping stations, pressure control valves, storage facilities, and export terminals, all of which require constant protection. Securing the entire system would require the UAE to operate an extensive network of air defense units, surveillance platforms, patrol aircraft, and maritime forces around the clock. Maintaining that level of readiness would involve enormous financial and logistical resources. Should a confrontation similar to this scenario ever unfold, the focus would likely extend far beyond ADCOP and the Strait of Hormuz. Energy ports, refineries, command facilities, transportation hubs, and other essential infrastructure across the Gulf could all become part of a much wider regional crisis. The consequences would not remain limited to the Middle East. Any serious interruption to oil production or transportation in the region could send a powerful shock through global energy markets, affecting fuel prices, shipping costs, and economies around the world. Yet the most important lesson from this scenario is not about the number of aircraft, drones, or missiles available to either side. It is about information and the speed at which that information can be used. Iran may operate large numbers of unmanned aircraft, cruise missiles, and advanced air defense platforms. But against a fully connected sensor and data-sharing network, the decisive advantage may belong to the side capable of understanding the situation and responding more quickly. In this scenario, the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye is not the platform directly engaging every target. Its true role is to connect aircraft, ships, radar systems, and defensive units into one coordinated operational picture. That is also the direction in which modern military operations are evolving. Success no longer depends only on which side possesses the largest arsenal. It increasingly depends on who detects an approaching threat first, distributes accurate information faster, and coordinates a response within seconds. So do you believe a network built around the E-2D Hawkeye and cooperative engagement capability could significantly reduce Iran's missile advantage? Or might Tehran still possess additional options capable of changing the balance? Share your perspective in the comments.